Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Marietta College family, and thank you for joining us today for this special employee town hall meeting. Our goal today is to share with you the most up-to-date information regarding this upcoming fall semester. I know that some of you may have questions, so please feel free to ask your questions in the comments section on this live YouTube feed. I know that much of what we discussed today you are all already aware of through one or more of the members of our recovery task force that has been meeting regularly during the summer. We started out in April meeting every day, then 3 times a week, then twice a week, and now we meet every Wednesday. All sectors of the college are represented, and they are all happy to share any and all information with you. We have a great cross-section of faculty, staff, administrators, and members of the Board of Trustees, and we have encouraged them to share everything that we discuss. Joining me today are the entire senior leadership team. Provost and Dean of the Faculty, Janet Bland, Vice President for Student Life and Diversity, Richard Danford, Senior Vice President for Finance and Administrative Services, Michelle Mara, Vice President for Enrollment Management, Scott Schaefer, Vice President for Advancement, Josh Jacobs, Vice President for Communication and Brand Management, Tom Perry, and Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, Larry Heiser. I've asked each of them to join me today to help answer any and all questions you may have about our plans for this fall and to share pertinent information that will give you a better understanding of what to expect when students begin to arrive next month and in-person learning begins on August 17th. I want to keep my comments brief, but I need to share a few observations. First, I've been in higher education for more than 40 years. In fact, I started college in 1970, so that's a couple more than 40 years. And I've never been around a group of faculty and staff like you who have worked harder, who have been more dedicated to what we all know is our top priority, our students. I want to express my gratitude for everything you have done over the past 4 months. People, all people here at Marietta College are working day and night to make sure we are making all the changes necessary to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 during this fall semester of 2020. It truly takes each and every one of us to make this happen. Next, I'm sure many, if not all of you, have read or heard that colleges and universities around the United States are taking different approaches to the fall semester because of COVID-19. We have decided to return in-person learning for many, many reasons, but most importantly, because we believe it's the best approach and we feel we can manage the spread of the virus on campus, especially if everyone follows the guidelines we have established. That is one of the reasons we have asked employees and students to not travel 2 weeks before returning to campus, and we have stressed what you now know to be the Marietta College Cocktail. Marietta College Cocktail is simple and it has 4 parts. The first part is wear masks. And just so you know, this is not a chin guard, it's not a mouth guard, it's a face mask. So please wear masks. Physically distant whenever and wherever possible. Wash your hands at least 5 times a day. Why? Yes, we know Mom was right to wash your hands, but there's also research on the United States military where basic trainees who were followed during their basic training and asked to wash their hands 5 times a day, the research discovered that their visits for respiratory illness to the infirmary went down by 50% if they washed their hands 5 times a day. Finally, the 4th part of the cocktail, screen for temperature and symptoms. If we all do the cocktail well, we believe we can limit the spread of COVID-19. Another reason we want to return to campus is because the majority of our students, our faculty, and our staff want to return to campus. It also helps that we have a manageable enrollment and the space on campus to spread out and physically distant. Our location helps. While the Mid-Ohio Valley has seen some spikes in COVID-19, cases recently, it's really small. It's small in comparison to other areas of the United States. It's small in comparison to other areas of Ohio. I give a reference point. The density per square mile in Washington County is 96 people. The density per square mile in New York City is 29,000. That ought to give you a good comparison. Now, this doesn't mean there won't be some online elements or even a few classes that are totally online. And the reasons vary, but typically the reason is because a faculty member is in a high-risk category, and we want to help protect them from the slim possibility that they could come into contact with someone who has COVID-19. This is our chance to shine. We can show the strength of being a liberal arts institution, and we will need each and every one of you to step up and do your best work this year. I'm counting on you. The students are counting on you. Community is counting on you. My hope is that when we look back at the end of this academic year, we can acknowledge there were challenges, it was hard, but also that we are proud of the way we stepped up and delivered inside and outside of the classroom for our students. And more importantly, that we did it in a safe and very responsible way. Now, let me review a few things that were communicated to you either in one of my earlier COVID-19 email updates or through emails from Deb Wayland in HR, Janet Bland in Academic Affairs, or other communications from other folks on campus. First, classes will begin Monday, August 17th, 3 days earlier than originally scheduled, and we will run straight through to finals week, which concludes on Tuesday, November 24th, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Therefore, we will be conducting classes on Labor Day, Monday, September 7th. The college will be open, and everyone will be working on that day. It also means that we will not have a fall break, and classes will be held on Monday and Tuesday, October 5th and October 6th. Finals week will also be adjusted. Rather than the traditional 5-day exam schedule, final exams will begin on Wednesday, November 18th, and they will be held over the course of 7 days, ending on Tuesday, November 24th. All of us will get to take a much-needed break for Thanksgiving starting on Wednesday, November 25th, and we won't return until Monday, November 30th. We hope this is the only time we have to make these types of changes to a semester. But naturally, we will continue to monitor the situation and make any adjustments as needed. We have established these recommendations and requirements to help the campus community mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus. All of these are important, but I want to put some extra emphasis on wearing masks, face shields, or face coverings. I realize this has become a politically charged topic, but it won't be on our campus. All employees, students, and visitors must wear a mask at all times. The only exceptions to this requirement are when an employee is safely in their workspace and can easily maintain 6 feet of physical distance, and when students are in the residence hall room or eating a meal. Once you step outside of your room, you're required to wear a mask or face covering properly. As I said before, that means covering your nose and your mouth. We know students who are in a low-risk age group for serious illness. You may feel like the virus won't have any impact on you or any impact on anybody else. But we're asking you, and we are asking all of you, to be true pioneers and wear a mask. Each and every one of us needs to be responsible for our own health and the health of each and every other person on the campus and in the community of Marietta. If we drop the ball, this could have a negative impact on the semester or even on the entire academic year. Please, let's respect each other. Our faculty have been hard at work coming up with a variety of creative ways to deliver the Marietta College curriculum this fall, and many of them have been sharpening their Moodle skills, their Zoom skills, and other online techniques, and meeting this summer to help get ready for the fall of 2020. Our staff have been tirelessly working to prepare classrooms, hallways, dining areas, technology, and more, so that we are ready when there are close to 1,800 people on campus in August and the rest of the fall semester. Our athletic coaches have been staying in touch with current and incoming athletes to make sure that they are aware of any changes. but also making sure they are staying in shape for the upcoming seasons. Our fall enrollment looks strong thanks to our amazing enrollment and financial aid team. And now they are welcoming visitors to campus as they recruit rising high school seniors and juniors to be future pioneers for the classes of 2021, fall of 2021, and the fall of 2022. Our talented and dedicated team in student life has been working long and hard to develop plans for moving students into the residence halls in August, while also executing on-campus orientation programs throughout the entire summer. Our advancement team just completed the most successful Marietta Fund campaign in the college's history by raising more than $3 million in 1 year. And we hope to receive a very large unrestricted gift very, very soon. The communication and brand management team has done an amazing job of creating dozens of videos to help us share the Marietta College story during the pandemic, but also completed its first virtual Marietta Magazine, produced a virtual commencement ceremony for both undergrads and the Physician's Assistant Program, and organizes all of these town hall meetings like we're having today. Finally, I want to acknowledge the exemplary work of our folks in human resources, information technology, and campus police, because much of what they do goes unnoticed, but is greatly appreciated by all of us at Marietta College. Now that we have this town hall meeting well underway, I want to remind all of you, if you have questions, be sure to add them to the comment section, and we will do our best to respond to all of those questions. Questions are going to be coming from Tom Perry, our Vice President for Communication and Brand Management. Tom?
Okay, well, we'll have the first question here is, we've heard you tell students that they should not have family or friends visit campus during the semester. Does this also mean employees shouldn't have their family or friends come to campus?
It's a great question, Tom. The answer is we're trying to mitigate COVID-19, and by creating as much of our own bubble as possible, that's what we'd like to do. So yes, we've asked students not to travel back and forth to home, not to have visitors, friends on campus, and not to have moms and dads and other relatives come to campus. We would also very much like to limit the visitation of any families to campus during this fall semester. Any visitation on campus has the probability of compromising what we're trying to do in mitigating COVID-19. So I know it's always not comfortable, I know it's a big ask, but please, we would like faculty and staff to join our students in limiting visitors to campus, families to campus during this fall semester.
And there's been a lot of talk, and you mentioned earlier about the wearing of masks and what could happen. So are you concerned that individuals won't want to wear masks around campus? And if so, what will be done to make sure people do wear them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we're not going to develop a new strand of mask police. We want people, I guess I'll take words from the governor. I mean, he says we want Ohioans to manage themselves. We want Marietta College pioneers to manage themselves. So we want students to encourage students. We want faculty to encourage faculty. We want staff to encourage staff. We want employees to encourage employees. We want everybody to take the personal responsibility. Carry a mask with you, carry a spare mask with you, have a spare mask at your desk. I see a lot of masks hanging from rearview mirrors in cars these days. So just make sure that you have easy access to that mask. And I know if you're like me, there are plenty of mornings I walked out of 301 5th Street without a mask in my pocket, and I went like this, and I had to go back in, unlock the door, go back in, get my mask, and so now I'm much more conscientious about doing it. Mask wearing is critical to not only protecting you, but protecting others. So I can't encourage everybody enough from wearing a mask. I'll also add in potentially students, faculty, staff. Maybe you have a little mask contest and see who wears the best mask, the most colorful mask, the worst mask, the ugliest mask, whatever it might be to keep us going through this fall semester, because I know mask wearing is not normal. It's unusual. But a lot of you I know have opted out of mask wearing to go with a mask covering, a gaiter, A lot of folks on the faculty are going to be using face shields to teach so that people can see faces. So whatever we're talking about, make sure that you have those face coverings available and wear them.
Okay, we're going to move to a question that was submitted online, and it just wants to know, once classes resume, if students and faculty begin to test positive, how many cases need to be reported before the campus resorts back to distance learning?
Wow, that's a great question. The epidemiologists tell us that 5% is kind of the number that gets you into a situation where you should really consider a change in what you're doing. Now, 5% of about 1,500 is 75. I would tell you long before that, we are going to monitor any positive cases, anybody in isolation, anybody in quarantine, and we will make decisions about changing delivery well before, I hope, that 5% threshold.
And sort of going backwards a little bit to the question you just had, there was a follow-up online. Wanted to know, and we'll just say it's been rumored that children of employees cannot be on campus. Is that true?
Well, we would like to have people know that we really, just like any other visitor, we understand that there are times when you have kids with you and you're stopping by to pick up something in your office, you're doing something, but any kind of visitation on campus ought to be infrequent. Children visits ought to be infrequent. And if you do bring children to campus for a short period of time, say less than an hour, they should be managing or observing all the protocol as well, wearing masks, making sure that they are not interfering with anybody else's business. But yeah, it's back to the visitor question. We would like to discourage as many outside guests, family members, visitors from coming into this bubble that we're going to create on campus during the fall semester as possible. And I know the family task force is working on that. We're going back and forth with some good wording that will assist you. But as we make opportunities for your work schedule to be variable, that we are hopeful that that will be able to allow you to continue to be employed, continue to work from campus, and continue to take care of those child care needs.
We'll try to stay with the health-related questions at this point. We're going to go to another one that was submitted ahead of time, and that was, does Merida College have a health advisor that is guiding us in our safety decisions?
We do. We have several health advisors that are advising us in making our decisions. Probably our biggest, newest partner and friend is Ann Goon, who is the Commissioner of the Health Department. So Ann has been communicating with Richard Danford, with Larry Heiser, with a number of us on campus on a regular basis. If you saw some of the videos, we have a great partner in Marietta Memorial Hospital. We're getting advice from them in terms of testing. We have a partnership with our Center for Health and Wellness. And we also have a partner in Camden Clark Hospital on the Parkersburg side of the river, where we've been in touch with them. So we have an awful lot of advising going on in terms of whether to test, how to test, where to test, what testing can take place, what to do about symptoms, what to do about masks, what to do about protocol, what to do about how we started the semester, how we're going to complete the semester. And a lot of the pieces you see in our protocol are based on conversations with local physicians, local hospital administrators, and of course the local health department. None of the protocol that we go forward that needs approval of the local health department hasn't been vetted more than once by Ann Goon and her staff.
President Reed, this will be your final question for a little while. And then we'll switch to Janet. Are there concerns how we are going to feed all of the students on campus, and should employees consider not getting meals at Gilman, Izzy's, et cetera, to help make food service go more smoothly?
Well, I can answer part of that, and I'm going to ask Richard Danford to answer part of that when he can come up. But the answer is we're going to do an excellent job of spreading people out. So Parkhurst has been a great partner in terms of food service. Parkhurst, you may have seen trucks on campus moving things around. Parkhurst is spreading out what they're doing, how they're serving in the new serving rules. You can't go through a buffet and pick up your own food. They have to serve you. But we're also designating improved spaces in Izzy's, improved spaces in the Gathering Place, potential spaces in Upper Gilman. We are very seriously finalizing an outdoor tent space that can provide outdoor food service activity for any employee, staff, or student. And we also would ask people, and I know Richard's working on it, to figure out how to spread out the eating times when you eat. So it may be helpful for employees not to necessarily go when other students are going, but maybe go earlier or maybe go later. So we're going to work on designating slots, and I'm looking at Richard, and he's saying those are all good answers.
Yep.
Those are all good answers. And as we go through the semester and we discover concentrations or better times or worse times, we will make sure all the employees are well aware of what's available for them in food service for this fall semester. I guess the next questions are for Janet.
Yep.
Dr. Bland.
Well, Dr. Bland, as you walk up to the microphone, I'll go ahead and get started. There were a number that were questions that were sent ahead of time, and obviously there's a number of them that are starting to appear online as well. So as everybody's listening, I want to tell everybody we will try to get to as many questions as we possibly can, and hopefully some of them will be answered in other questions, but I can't guarantee we'll get to all of them, but we're going to keep doing our best to get there. So we'll get started with a classroom question. Just wanting to know if all classrooms, or will all classrooms be equipped with cameras for dual delivery, and will IT work with departments on camera placement and technology required for dual delivery?
Yes, they will, and yes, IT will. We have been putting cameras in all the classrooms. Training for using these cameras, we'll have a sign up. We'll start August 3rd, so you know exactly what the camera can do. So we have been working with classrooms. Come down, you should have, as I've said in many contexts, Amanda Reynolds, Tina Hickman, and Suzanne Walker spent the better part of a day going through every single class, every single classroom for every single faculty member. And so we know the capacities are set up, but we also have some overflow areas. For instance, we're going to have a large classroom dedicated throughout the semester in the great room. We will be using the third floor of the library. Cooper Auditorium, which we're in right now, many of you know that a lot of learning and retirement classes happen in here in the afternoons. They're not meeting on campus. So we are looking for spaces and we are looking for strategies, but technology is really going to help us with that. So we're not going to throw you in a classroom where we say, it's the first day, just figure out that camera. There will be training and we'd like you to pursue it and sign up.
Another question, just President Root had mentioned obviously the looking at different classes, maybe some being hybrid, there would be some options for online and things like that. Will the course schedule reflect how classes will be taught, hybrid, dual, whatever, so students when they're selecting classes will know what they're picking? Yes.
The first thing, we have a number of faculty members who are going to be delivering by distance, so that's sort of the first level. These faculty members, for instance, will have their classes sitting in the room. They will be projected on the screen, the camera will be pointed at the students, and the microphone will pick up their questions. So they're able to have sort of a live class in spaces like that. We will be notifying the students enrolled in those classes that this is going to be the method of delivery. We're also in that method going to have different staff members who will be able to tap, who will be there to turn on those cameras, to confirm at the beginning of the class, that everything's up and running. They don't need to sit there the entire time, but we're going to over-inform our students, not only that they would be in a class with this kind of delivery, and we're trying to make it as live and in person as possible, but also if we have any technical difficulty, that we're looking at making sure there's an immediate known contact person in that building. Also that we could be either texting or connecting with the faculty member. So on that level, we want a lot of support. We also have to code each class as to how these classes work. So when you think of, not to bring up a different kind of disaster in the middle of a pandemic, but when you think of normal times, and we are concerned about, for instance, an active shooter, we have records, obviously through the records office, that we know, for instance, who is registered. We can't confirm presence, but we know who is registered during a certain time for what class in a specific building. So for those folks who are splitting their classes, where if you're a Tuesday, Thursday class, and you're seeing, I think Dave McShafer is using the blue team and the white team, And so if you're talking to the blue team, half your class in person, and the white team is virtual Tuesday, and it's flipped on Thursday, we are going to be asking people, I will be sending this out because it's hard to sort of track verbally, in written instructions, we discussed this at chairs, that you'll be identifying who are the students who were expected to be in class. So there is that safety piece we also have to verify. We are going to be keeping track. We'll be working with chairs through departments, so we can answer in what way, as much as we can control, because if the governor says schools are closed, we're going to have to respond. But in our proposed opening and going forward mode, we need to know, is this class all meeting? Is this class doing halvesies? Is it 50% in the class and 50% asynchronous? So we have some coding. We're trying to make it very simple, that we will be asking, we'll be describing what you're doing. We'll, for instance, combine saying dual delivery or hybrid. You don't need to parse out what that means. But we'll be coding all of those classes. It is crucial for faculty. And again, I'm going to call out Dave McShafer. He had a great example he sent us. Your syllabus has to over-inform. It should be, you don't want a student saying, I didn't know what day I was supposed to come, so I just showed up here or showed up there. They need to know exactly where they will be and what's the nature of delivery of instruction for each class or lab period. So over-inform, and I would say this is a little beyond the question, but that also goes for hours of operation signs, of posting your office hours, of saying what the nature of your office hours is. Because if you're doing your office hours through Zoom in your office, and you have chosen that that is the best way to have a one-on-one conversation, not wearing masks, but also having electronic distance, we don't want students thinking, I'll just go knock on the door. Because if the point was to give you that spacing, so we want to over-inform in every document and on every list that appears on your office door.
Combine these two questions, so bear with me as I say it here. But first, I want to know if we've considered, obviously, that we have many old and oddly shaped classrooms that just might not work for dual delivery, as well as 6 feet distancing between the instructor and students. And then the other part of it is, what is our rule for spacing students? 6 feet, 50% room capacity, no rules. They're saying there's a lot of rumors out there. We just want to try to clarify that for them.
Sure. Our standard is we're looking at the original capacity of a room, and no more than 50% of the original capacity will be assigned to be in that room. If that does not feel adequate to you, then we're talking about a dual delivery system where only part of the time the students will be broadcasted to live, they'll be able to watch you, and part of the time they'll be there. So we have the ability to respond to some of these rooms. We'd also like you to be able to, and there's not a lot of people on campus, obviously, get your favorite mask and come on down to campus and take a look at your room. Again, we know you don't have camera training yet, and think about how it is set up. So very often that 6 feet is established by the 50% occupancy, but we are going by that. Again, every student in your class will be wearing a mask. And you can be in a mask or a shield, and there's also plastic sheeting or plexiglass up in front of the podium if you want to stand back there with nothing. So the exception to the 50% of established occupancy is experiential learning, which includes studio classes, theater, all the science labs. We are asking each department, I've been in touch with the chairs, to meet as a department and say, what are our standards? So while chemistry and physics may not be doing the same thing in labs, because we're asking if there is less space between students, we need additional mitigation. But we need to have a certainty that all chemistry classes, for instance, are following the same plan. I know art is working on that. I've had some great conversations with Jolene Powell about taking her painting class outside. That's actually what plein air painting is. So put on your coat and go be an artist. So there are different tactics people are going to use when we're talking about that experiential learning. I've been talking to the theater department about the nature of their of their productions. They're not putting on, I'm trying to think of something with a huge, Hamilton, a whole lot of people on stage. Chorus line, they're looking at productions that can be run multiple nights with fewer actors on stage. They're going to be using face shields exclusively for when they need to be acting and you need to see their faces. If theater students are simply sitting in class, they need more protection from a mask. We're also going to be using a minimum of face shields. We're following what the schools would like for our education students who will be going out and be in schools. I just had a discussion with the principal of Beverly Center about how they're splitting up their classrooms. But again, your average classroom, 50% occupancy, experiential learning, departments need to address additional mitigation.
Okay, this is a little bit of a long question, but if you'll bear with me on this.
I got long answers.
Wants to know if you can clarify the procedure for students who are requesting dual delivery this semester. Is it for medical reasons only, or can a student request this because they are uncomfortable? Will the faculty member be notified when this has been approved? And if a student tells us that they are uncomfortable attending, what is our response supposed to be?
Faculty members do not have to make this decision. I'm looking back to Richard at the back of the room. These requests are going through Student Life and Disability Services. We're able for our faculty and staff to address one-on-one levels of comfort, creative workarounds, options for people. Students aren't employees. They have a different process here. So we will notify faculty if, for instance, they have a student who has a compromised immune system, who very much wants to participate in the class, wants to return to college, but is concerned about safety. And so that we'll be handling through Student Life, which of course includes the Health and Wellness Center. You are not obligated to make decisions about that, approve anything, and we'll figure out how to best do that, and you'll get the technical support.
Again, Janet, still for you. How much notice will a faculty member be provided regarding the need to go to dual delivery or something else? And are we expected to be ready to do it on any given day?
Very little and yes. If we hear from the governor, we're going to have the world's quickest COVID task force cabinet meeting on record because we're going to immediately need to be able to respond if this comes from state officials, local officials. And as there are updates, we'll also be updating you. But if someone says we can no longer deliver in person, that will be our news. The reason that we have asked everybody, even if they think they're going to be standing up in front of their class, I might have a class of 25 in here in the Cooper Auditorium, and I'm back here with the shield, and they're over there, and I think you guys are okay. I still need to have that capability as a faculty member to use that technology to step into hybrid or dual delivery if we are given very little notice. You can remember the only reason we had, quote, notice, which was, I agree with you, there was no adequate amount of notice, so it was by nature inadequate, was because we were on spring break. Schools who were going closed pretty much at the end of business day. So that's really why we want you to be as nimble as possible. Our goal is absolutely we get through this semester and you can give the delivery you've planned. But that's why we're asking people to be nimble and to have that skill set.
I'm going to give you a quick one here.
Sure.
One that was just submitted. Wants to know if can we teach with face shields, or are they the equivalent of masks?
I think if you have enough distance, they are less protection. And Craig Howell and I have been talking about this. A two-ply mask that is made to be a mask, obviously an N95 is the best bet, and they make it hard to breathe. Well, that's why they're so effective. Two-ply masks with blown fabric are better, not as good as an N95, but we know that, but they are superior to things like wearing a bandana. The more layers you have, and you've got to balance that. How do I breathe? And how do I have an effective mask? Face shields are less effective, but if you are able to be 6 or 7 feet away from your front row of students, and again, these desks are spread out, and every student is wearing a mask, and you're comfortable with that. I am paranoid about masks, obviously, and I would, under those conditions, teach at a whiteboard because people are concerned about the fact of, can you see my face? We have brought in through, in Kenny Klein's office, 1,200, I believe, face masks, or I'm sorry, face shields. Craig in physics has been making a bunch of them for a minimum for our education students. We have some that were given to us that we have handed out. Public service announcement: if part of your mask was made on a 3D printer, that plastic temperature is at a much lower level. It is not the plastic on the side of a Swiss Army knife, and it's not chocolate, but it'll melt in your car. So be aware that some of the plastic on those can become very flexible and unusable. But you can teach in a shield, and we do have them.
Okay, one more question, then we'll ask Larry Heiser to come up.
Sure.
Wants to know if faculty and staff are required to clean or monitor cleaning of rooms before and after occupancy by students, such as between classes. If yes, will cleaning supplies, PPE for faculty, staff, and training of how to safely clean be provided? If no, who will be cleaning between classes?
We're going to have a cleaning schedule in general that I believe through high traffic areas will be twice a day through our physical plant folks. There will be cleaning supplies. Fred has talked about this chemical. I've worked with them. Their previous germ-killing chemical that would kill the virus was you needed 10 minutes on a surface that isn't functional between classes. They have identified one that does indeed smell like Clorox. I was the test smeller, and it will kill things in 30 seconds. We are not asking the staff in a building to be, they're not professional cleaners. We have professionals in physical plant who know these chemicals, know how to do this. So what we're asking people to do is consider their space as they enter it. So a faculty member is not required to clean a classroom before or after. No staff member is required, other than our professionals in physical plant, to clean a classroom. What we're asking people to do, because there will be wipes and appropriate chemical in every classroom, we're asking people to think about their space. So if I'm coming into a classroom to teach, I'm going to probably wipe off the surfaces that I'm going to be at. So that tells me that I know it's been cleaned. There's really almost no point in cleaning as you leave, because the next person who comes in does not know it's been cleaned, and we just dump more chemicals out, and it's wasteful. Every student will have the option, and they can certainly be encouraged, for those of you who remember H1N1, to come in and wipe off their desktop. That will be absolutely easy, and again, we are recommending people do it as they enter. You leave, the next person comes in and can make that choice also. We are seeing less transmission from surfaces, but we want people to be careful. We're looking also for things like a pack of dry erase pens for every single faculty member to be carrying around with you. We're trying to have fewer shared pieces. If you are cleaning a keyboard, you need to spray the cloth and wipe. Please do not spray the keyboard. And again, I'll harken back to H1N1. When we had cleaner, people were using it, students were using it on the desks because we were trying not to get closed down with H1N1, and it was used on whiteboards. Cleaner like that will destroy the surface on a whiteboard. Do not use it. And this isn't because I think people are foolish. We replaced at least 10 in Thomas due to that inadvertent damage. So remember, a cleaner only cleans. And this isn't our moment to start having to have people in here putting up new whiteboards at $1,000 a piece. Thanks.
Okay, Larry, as you're walking up, we have one question that came in advance for you, so I wanted to give us a chance to get this one answered, and it's related to DBRC, and if there's anything else you want to add about the rec center and those things, but it's due to capacity limitations where there'll be designated slots or hours for employees to use the DBRC during the workday hours.
Right now we are investigating but have not changed our policy. So we have a limit of 25 in the DBRC fitness center, which includes the lower level weight racks and the upper level aerobic machines. We think that we can increase that number safely according to state guidelines and social distancing principles to about 30. So we're looking at that, but all the while we're still looking at Sign Up Genius to see if that's going to be an effective way to manage who's in and when they come in. But there's so many loopholes in that it might not be effective. So we're just going to maybe see where we land with Sign Up Genius before we make a final decision. But the check-in procedure overall will be the same. So We will do our little waiver and symptom checker at the front desk that's currently going on right now, and there's a chance that you might not get in when you want to come in because your temperature's too high or because we're over the capacity, and you may have to use the track or some other aspect of the facility before you can get in the fitness center. Does that do it for you, Tom? All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to have Scott Schaefer come up now. Scott, as you're walking up, I'll ask the question for you as well. And it's, as we talked about limiting the number of visitors to campus, family, friends, that kind of stuff. Just wanting to, maybe we can explain a little bit as to what are our policies as far as bringing visitors to campus who are coming here just to learn about the campus, student visitors or prospective student visitors.
Well, we're still going to be doing that, but we're going to be limiting them just like we limited them this summer. We opened back up for in-person visits June 1, and we have 7 visits a day. We're right now finalizing what we'll do in the fall. It's probably going to be more like 10 based on the time that we have so they can come and visit. They are limited to only 3 other people coming with them. There's a questionnaire that they fill out and is sent when they schedule the visit, and then it's sent the day before to make sure that no one in their group has any symptoms of the COVID-19. They fill it out, and then we let them come visit. That's the reason we sent out a form to all the faculty asking if faculty wanted people in their classes, if they wanted to meet people either virtually or in person, and we're collecting that information. If someone does want to sit in the class, it won't go over the 50% limit, and we will only let 1 student visit in the class at a time. So we are going to try to limit it, and we'll keep that together, including we're meeting next week about our STEM visit day. If we do a lab and we can only have 8 people, then the first 8 students that sign up, that's who's going to go in it, and we'll have all the protective gear that they need because they have to agree to wear a face mask or face shield. Everything that we're required to do here, the students coming to visit and their families have to do the same thing.
Perfect. Okay, we'll have Richard Danford come up now, and as Richard's walking up, I'll go ahead and ask the question for you. And just want to review the Health and Wellness Center's policy regarding verifying an excused absence this fall.
Sure. So I'm happy to report that we just actually finalized that language, and working with Janet and Suzanne and with Debbie Egoff for inclusion in syllabi. The process will look similar to what you're accustomed to in past years. Additions this year will be that if a student provides documentation themselves or asks an outside provider to provide documentation, the Center for Health and Wellness will also send notice if the student should not be in class. And additionally, both the Center for Health and Wellness and outside providers will be asked to provide information about whether students should be attending classes virtually. So if a student is well enough to attend class virtually but not well enough to be in class, you'll be notified of that difference. And if you have a student who comes to you with their own documentation that they've gotten from a provider other than the Center for Health and Wellness, you'll be able to determine whether or not to excuse that student's absence from in-person class attendance or from virtual class attendance based on the documentation the student provides to you.
So kind of a follow-up to that, a little bit different than I think the question was originally asked, but the original question was wanting to know if a student refuses to wear a mask in class, is that considered an unexcused absence? But what even more important to maybe ask is there anything new with the student conduct policy or anything like that about not wearing a mask as well?
We don't have anything new in the student handbook in the conduct section because there is sufficient language there that will allow us to address any reports of noncompliance with mask wearing or any other measures that are in place in classrooms and residence halls and other spaces on campus to address that conduct with the student. And it would be a first-time offense, having an educational conversation and then working to develop that student's understanding of the impact of their behavior on the campus community, what the expectations are, and then what the consequences would be for ongoing non-compliance.
Stay out there and see if this is one for you. If not, it'll probably be for Janet, so I'll keep you both on alert here. One that just came in online was, what is the process for reserving the outdoor classroom space, or is it a free-for-all?
We're not there yet, I think is the answer to that question. because we're not actually certain. I think Bill mentioned earlier that we're working on finalizing where the tent is going to be set up. So that's an ongoing project with McGuffey Tents, the fire department, and our staff here on campus. So we had intended to put it on the Mallway, but that may not be possible. So we're looking at other options. Ultimately, we may be able to put it on the Mallway, but until we know where it's going to be, we can't make a determination about scheduling and who's going to manage that. But we do want to be sure that it is not available for anything other than dining during that peak lunch hour.
One of those that I'm going to kind of leave it open to who thinks is best to answer it. But what happens if one student in a class tests positive? What does that do to the entire class? Does that class have to be tested? Does the class have to be quarantined? What is that? I know you've worked with the health department,
Yeah.
So
That's a great question, and it depends very much on the information we know about the class. So one of the things that the health department has asked us to do, and that I've discussed with Janet, is having every instructor have assigned seating in their classroom and have a seating chart recorded for that classroom, and that in conjunction with attendance information for any particular day will help the health department determine who may have been a direct close contact and whether or not those individuals need to be quarantined, need to be tested, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to depend on the layout in a particular classroom, what the spacing was in that classroom, those sorts of things.
Richard, you're up there, so we'll keep you up there for one more. I think you can answer this one. It's sort of a follow-up to that. Will testing be mandatory or provided for students, faculty, and staff? I know that's kind of open to everybody, but maybe you can answer that, especially from the student perspective.
Yeah, we're not going to do any testing on campus. We've been advised by our health advisors to allow that to happen at the locations in the local community that have those resources, so that we're not making a drain on those supplies. And we really don't have the facilities and the resources to do that effectively because of the size of our operation. So there will be testing that will be mandated, if we have a positive diagnosis somewhere and there's a need from the health department's perspective to have testing done for anybody who's identified as a close direct contact.
Perfect. We'll bring Janet back up. All right, Janet, as you come back up, this one's been asked a couple times, so I figure we better get it answered in some way. And it's wanting to know if there's going to be sort of it's the combination of a college-wide attendance policy that should be placed in syllabi. There's been some other questions about things that should be placed in syllabi as well. Like, are there some statements that are being prepared? Can you just sort of update everybody on that?
Yes, Suzanne and I are working with Debbie Egoff. She raised a very good question, is if I have an attendance policy, what does it mean when at the same time we're trying to build a culture, and this is for us as faculty and staff and for students, that you do not say, I'm sick, but I'm going to gut it out today, because we want people to be very aware if they're not feeling well. The flip side, the concern is obviously, how do I combat a student who every other week isn't feeling well? That's why we have the protocol that if you are indicating to your professor that you don't feel well enough to attend class, you are contacting the student health center, because you must actually be sick. And so it is not, we're really trying to find that sweet spot between do not come to school sick, because we've still got the flu, we've still got mono, we've still got strep, just as an entire banana sundae of all the things that students can share. So even if someone doesn't have COVID, we really don't want them sick in class. So we're working on language for you can put in your syllabus. This does not mean you cannot hold students responsible. We had when we all did a town hall that was more largely attended last week by students, prospective students, families, someone asked if a student, if he could just sit in his room and take classes. No, you cannot. No medical, just the desire to kind of exist in sweatpants, I think. We need people delineating between I'm ill, I am not ill, I have a specific reason not to be here.
Okay, one more question here. Wanting to know just who will be handling disability services, since Kristen English is now working with the Center for Teaching Excellence.
Her name is Kristen English. Kristen's, we're very excited that she's going to be offering some more help. to Debbie and to Debbie Egoff and Linda Resch in the Center for Teaching Excellence. You know as well as I know that they've been carrying a lot, if not all, of the training, all of our gearing up for delivery. So we really needed someone else in there, but we also have responsibilities to having an ADA compliance person and someone with expertise working with students who need disabilities. So about 75% of Kristen's time is going to be spent working with Linda Resch, working on, the front of the house and the back of the house for Beacon, for instance. But the 10% of her job, and these estimates are based on conversations that I had with both Amanda Check and with Kristen English about what does her day look like, what percentages of her work are actually disability services based. So her position will be split. She will take that about 25%, working with that. She is still the to-go person. She will still be aiding as she can with student life when there are accommodations for comfort animals, etc. But she is still carrying that. We have been able to, it's going through the electronic paperwork right now, get some approval to get additional staffing that will backfill those 30 hours with very experienced educators to backfill those 30 hours a week where Kristen was actually meeting with students. So we have the work covered. We got great support from Bill and Michelle's office to make sure that we are still at a high quality of engagement, covering those hours in the ARC.
Very good. President Rood? Before we ask a question, President Rood has one quick announcement he wants to make before we ask another question.
Before any more questions, I have one quick announcement. Governor Mike DeWine just announced this afternoon that effective 6 p.m. tomorrow, so 6 p.m. Thursday the 23rd, there is an all-Ohio mask requirement if you go out in public. So anybody that goes out in public is required to wear a mask. We will get more details out to you on the website as that goes forward, but that changes a little bit of how we approach what we do on campus. So we will be figuring out not only how employees, faculty, staff, students that are normatively on campus, but how to make sure some of the walkers and visitors that are on campus also comply with that requirement. So again, Governor DeWine this afternoon announced that effective tomorrow, 6 p.m., if you're out in public in the state of Ohio, you are required to wear a mask.
All right. Well, the next question I actually handed off to you. I know it has to do with there's obviously buildings that have windows that maybe are sealed shut, those kind of things. What are some of the measures that might be taken to help with the circulation of air and those things in classrooms?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know in addition to Fred Smith's working very hard at putting UV lights in a lot of the HVA systems and making sure we're changing filters and all other things more regularly, they're going to work with anybody at Marietta College, any faculty and staff who need assistance in opening or closing operable windows in their office or classroom. And you can request that by turning in a ticket to Fred's office or calling 4790. So if anybody has any issues with, really, if anybody has any issues with facilities at all, feel comfortable calling Fred, he said that, but the specific questions about windows, opening windows and things of that nature. And then as we get into the fall and we make the transition between air conditioning and heating, we will have more announcements out to you about how that's done. I do know Fred in many, if not all the buildings, has a regular protocol in the evening and early morning where fresh air is exchanged into that building. So all of our HVAC systems have the ability to move a lot of that fresh air through. But again, you got any questions, call Fred, 4790, and they will come and take care of you.
Knowing that every department across campus is a little different and has different expectations and all that kind of stuff, the question was just really wanting to know that some offices are kind of expected to be in 100% of the time, while others have maybe had some more flexibility. I don't know if there's a way to sort of encapsulate how we've tried to balance that, and then on top of that, what is really there was actually another question of when is our true report date that everybody's supposed to be back on campus. So I think there's a way to sort of answer that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. The answer is flexibility is the norm for the fall of 2020 and the summer of 2020. Every vice president, through their units, through their supervisors, through their chairs, through whoever, has been looking at the work production and what requirements are there to get the work done. And I think part of the challenge is because all offices on campus have variable requirements. We need to have somebody in the library. The library has to be open. The library has to have people physically there. At the same time, the library has the ability to have librarians on call at the other end of a telephone, so that even though everybody might not be there at some point in time, late in the evening or early in the morning, there may be the ability to call. We need people in the records office. We need people in the registrar's office. In the same vein, if you go into the finance offices, some of those finance offices require people to be there every day, require people to be there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Maybe they can stay home Tuesday, Thursday. I think the driving commonality that I would tell all faculty and staff is work performance, that we are measuring getting the job done such that we serve the primary clientele of the institution, and that is the students. So obviously in more student-centered jobs, it's more requirement to be on campus. In less student-centered jobs, it's less requirement to be on campus. But there really is no one prescriptive template that says check these boxes and this means you're at work, you're at home. And I think the other thing our VPs have discovered, that varies over time. So in the summertime, there's a lot more flexibility than during a semester, and then that flexibility returns at the end of the semester as we make a transition between semesters. So if anybody has a question about how that is done or what they would like to do or what their options are for their work schedule, please know that through each vice president down through supervisors, department chairs, that is working very well. As I said earlier in my presentation, the vast majority of folks, faculty, staff, and students want to be back on campus in the fall. So we're really looking at a variety of things. I think most classes will be taught in person. Most employees will be here in person. And in general, I would say, the semester officially starts 17 August. And it would be expectation that most people, that if they don't have some other kind of arrangement, are on campus and working.
So just a couple more questions as
Sure.
we try to keep this within that hour timeline that we talked about. So the next one is multifaceted, but easy to answer, I hope. It says we would like to request more frequent updates from administration. What has been completed, what is planned to be completed. Feel like we've noticed little to no cameras in classes, plexiglass barriers, all those kind of things. There seem to be many conflicting conversations happening across different parts of campus.
Well, the reality is please understand that the 40 members of the COVID task force are available and have been encouraged to pass information down through their respective units, whether it's faculty, staff, academic affairs, finance administration, whatever it is. So that group is very comfortable in sharing information with you. And for those of you who haven't been on campus, there are a lot of changes that are in the process of taking place on campus. The answer to the primary question is yes, we are trying as hard as we can to keep everybody up to speed. It requires a little bit of work on your part in making sure you go to the website. We're going to have the FAQs posted. We have 11 pages of FAQs divided out by area, by academic affairs, by athletics, by finance administration, by enrollment. So yes, we are trying very hard to keep you up to speed. And yes, we in fact, we had the conversation this morning at our COVID-19 task force. We went from every day to 3 days a week to 2 days a week. We're now to 1 day. We will likely ramp that back up so that we have the COVID task force meeting more often. And that will likely mean not only before the 17th, but after school starts on the 17th, that we will likely potentially have more town hall, in-person types meetings where you can ask questions. In the meantime, feel comfortable to reach out to your supervising vice president, whatever area it is, Got a question about academic affairs, reach out to Janet. Got a question about anything that you're not getting the answer you think you should be getting, send me an email, send me a text. The issue here is we are not actively trying to keep information away from people, and just the opposite. We are actively trying to get as much information out there as we can, and we will figure out those mechanisms that allow you to do that. My biggest encouragement for everybody, anybody who's a faculty or staff member, as soon as possible, if you haven't been back to campus, to look at your workspace. Come back to campus and look at your workspace. There are plenty of folks on campus, from Janet's shop to IT, to Larry's office, to enrollment management, that are more, to Richard's office, more than willing to help you work through any of the questions and issues that you might have as we move into in-person instruction in the fall.
Well, before I ask the final question, I just want to let everybody know who's still with us. If we didn't get to your question, I know they're still online. Many of them I can look at. I will do my best to answer them. Or if you feel like your question wasn't answered, feel free to email me, Tom Perry, at perryt@marietta.edu, and we will try to answer those as quickly as possible. So now for the final question. I believe all employees want the fall semester to be a huge success, but it's hard to believe we won't have any COVID-19 cases. Does the college have contingency plans or a plan B if we have to go to online learning again, or is there a way to continue in-person learning even if we have an outbreak?
It's a great question, Tom, and the answer is not only do we have plan B, but we have plan C, D, E, F, G. We have gone through a variety of scenarios with our board of trustees, with senior leadership. The answer is, you've already done it. We had 1,039 folks in the DBRC on Monday, the 9th of March, for the annual meeting of the Marietta Area Chamber of Commerce with Ryan Day, the head football coach at Ohio State, as our speaker. On the 10th of March, Governor Mike DeWine said everybody's going to remote learning. By the 16th of March, we were remote. So yes, we have a plan. We don't necessarily have to close down if we have one case. Is it a possibility we're going to have cases on campus? Sure. We're going to do everything we can to mitigate those cases. But I would tell you, just like at the hospital in town that has had a single-digit number of cases among their employees, the hospital did not shut down. If we have a small number of cases, we can mitigate, we can contact trace, we can isolate, we can quarantine. There isn't necessarily a reason to immediately and automatically shut down. So we have a set of plans, we have a set of things we're going to look at. We'll keep you informed as we get cases. Understand privacy enters into this whole transaction with regard to HIPAA and other rules that individuals may not be specifically identified to all. But yes, we have plans and protocols in place for students who test positive, for faculty who test positive, for people in your family or in your neighborhood that you might run into that have tested positive and you are concerned what you might do. And we will very much be on the flexibility side of making sure that on the one hand, people are safe, people are getting their jobs done, and at the same time, we are providing that great quality Marietta College education in the fall of 2020. So thanks, Tom. Thanks for the great questions. Thanks to senior leadership that has been here all the time for your great support and your great answers. And thank all of you on the other end of this broadcast for joining us this afternoon and for all of your great questions. Our annual fall convocation will be held using a similar format on Wednesday, August 12th. So please mark your calendars and join us then. We'll get out a time to you soon. In 19 days, about 400 new students will be moving onto our campus for the first time. 1 week later, all the students will be here as classes begin. We're going to be able to do this because of each one of you. If you're in housekeeping and you're cleaning the residence halls, you're helping us keep everyone safe. If you have worked hard this summer to adapt your course to make sure we can offer it effectively this fall, you're helping us to make sure we have a successful 2020 2021 academic year. Each and every one of you are making sure we bring forth a pioneer like never before. If you did not get a chance to ask a question today, as Tom suggested, or if we did not get a chance to answer your question, we're not slighting you, we're not leaving you out. Please ask your supervisor and see if they can help. If not, they will reach out to one of us here today and we will get back to you. We will continue to do our best to provide you with new information as it becomes available, but we also expect your representative on the Recovery Task Force to share updates as well with you as they see fit. And a gentle reminder that the most reliable source of information about Marietta College operations for the fall is in fact Marietta College. Any advisement that one student, one parent, or one employee receives is unique to their particular situation and may not apply to everyone at Marietta College. So again, seek us out for the information you need. Together, we are going to make this year the best ever. It's going to be hard, but we are going to be successful. Our Marietta College family is absolutely amazing, and I couldn't be more proud working for all of you. Go Pioneers.